King Leonard's celebration. There was once a lion king who ruled over all the beasts of the jungle. His name was Leonard, and he lived in a majestic castle, high atop a mountain in the center of a jungle. He seldom came down from his beautiful palace, but kept watch over his subjects by gazing through his royal telescope. One fine summer day, as King Leonard sat upon his throne, he had an idea. "Horatio!" the king bellowed, nearly losing his crown. A few minutes later, a tall, thin bird scurried up to the throne. "You called, sire?" the bird asked. "Yes, Horatio," King Leonard began. "I have had a wonderful idea. I'd like to give my subjects an extra special celebration. There shall be fine food, games, balloons, cakes, music, noisemakers, puzzles, and ice cream. Yes, prepare gallons and gallons of ice cream." "But, sire," Horatio said, "where will you hold this celebration?" "I will invite all of the animals here to my palace," the king smiled. "Here, sire?" the bird frowned. "But they have never—" "I know," the king nodded. "They'll never have been here before. Well, it's high time they came. We will hold a party tomorrow. Begin the preparations immediately." So a royal decree was issued, and the king's fleet-footed messengers ran to and fro, passing out invitations to all the jungle animals. One messenger went to Henry Hyena's home. "What do you want?" Henry asked when he answered the door. "Mr. Hyena," the messenger explained, "King Leonard has requested your presence at a royal celebration which will—" "King?" Henry chuckled. "King Schming! You don't expect me to believe that nonsense, do you? King Leonard is a joke. He's not real. Nobody's ever seen him." "Then I take it you won't be attending this party?" the messenger asked. "You don't give up, do you?" Henry laughed. "I'd really like to," he jested, "but I just bought the Sahara Desert and thought I'd go take a look. Get it? I bought the Sahara Desert." And before the royal messenger could say another word, Henry slapped the door in his face. At the house of Zelda the zebra, another messenger was knocking at the door. His arrival was announced by the barking of Mrs. Zebra's 2 energetic dogs. "Who is it?" she asked without opening the door. "A royal messenger come to invite you to King Leonard's celebration," the messenger said. "There will be music and plenty of food, and—" "Are you telling me that the mean old lion is having a party?" Zelda exclaimed. "I suppose I'm to be the main course." "Oh, no," the messenger tried to explain. "Certainly not." "Listen," Zelda said sternly. "I've just bought a pair of fierce watchdogs, and I'll be too busy teaching them to attack intruders and then go to any party." "Well, good day to you, ma'am," the messenger said, marking Mrs. Zebra's name off the list. Another messenger approached the house of Marvin Monkey and rang the doorbell. After a brief pause, the door opened and out swung Marvin. "Good morning, Mr. Monkey," the messenger said brightly. "I've come to ask if you would like to attend King Leonard's celebration." "Nah," Marvin shook his head. "Me and the missus just got hitched." "Well, congratulations," the messenger said. "So we ain't coming," the monkey said, and he turned to scamper back up the vine. "I'm sure the king will be disappointed," the royal messenger called after him. But Marvin had already swung into the house and slammed the door behind him. Meanwhile, back at the palace, King Leonard was pleased to see that the preparations in the grand ballroom were nearly complete. "Well, good afternoon, sire," Horatio said with a salute. "The royal dessert makers are ready to commence with the ice cream at your word." King Leonard turned to the cluster of cooks waiting near the ice cream making equipment. "Gentlemen," the king said, raising his paw into the air. "Let the ice cream begin." This sent the cooks into a frenzy of measuring, pouring, and stirring. "You've done a fine job, Horatio," the king said, patting the thin bird on the back. "A fine job indeed." Just then one of the royal messengers came in and whispered something to Horatio. "I am afraid I have some bad news, sire," the thin bird said with a frown. "What is it?" the king asked. "Are any of my subjects unable to attend the celebration?" Horatio nodded and began reading from a list that the messenger handed him. "Henry Hyena, Zelda the zebra, Marvin the monkey," he read. "How terrible!" the king exclaimed. "Wally Water Buffalo, Sam the Snake and his sister Susie, Hubert Hippopotamus, Isabel the Elephant." "Oh my," the king moaned, putting a paw over his face. "Patricia Panther, Charles the Cheetah, Oliver the Orangutan, Gregory Gorilla." "None of them will be attending?" King Leonard asked, his face filled with disappointment. "Then tell me, Horatio, who can come?" "No one, sire," the thin bird said quietly. "No one will be coming to your celebration." Horatio had never seen King Leonard look so sad. "I'm very sorry, sire," the king said, trying to comfort the king. "Would you like me to have the decorations taken down and the food put into the royal refrigerators?" The king nodded glumly. "And what shall I do about the ice cream, sire?" he asked. It will certainly not save," the king said with a sigh. "It must be disposed of. See to it." Horatio was about to carry out the order when King Leonard had another idea. "Wait, Horatio," the king roared. "Allow the cooks to continue with the royal ice cream." "But, sire, who will eat it?" Horatio asked. King Leonard stroked his mane and thought out loud. "My own subjects will not attend, eh? Then we shall carry on without them. Summon my messengers once again." Horatio saluted and bowed. "Royal messengers," he squawked. The king's fleet-footed messengers were sent out again to deliver invitations for the royal celebration. But this time, by the king's order, they journeyed beyond the jungle to the great forests of the town, even as far as the cities by the sea. As they went, they handed out invitations for King Leonard's party to everyone they met. Many of these animals were dirty. Some had only rags for clothes, yet they skipped about with joy, and when they heard the news, they gladly agreed to attend the celebration. Then they followed the king's messengers to the king's palace, where they were given baths and beautiful clothes to wear. "Sire," Horatio addressed the king, "the messengers have carried out your request." King Leonard raised his furry eyebrows. "And have they returned with party-goers?" Horatio nodded proudly. The king clapped his paws together. "But, sire," the bird said, "there are still a few empty seats at the banquet table, and the ice cream is almost ready." "Call the royal messengers again," the king said. "Send them to the country, and tell them to be quick." Horatio disappeared in a flurry of feathers and sent the messengers one last time. They went to the country just as the king had commanded, inviting all the animals they could find. When every seat at the banquet table had been filled, King Leonard entered the royal ballroom. He was delighted with what he saw. There, in the midst of the festive decorations, was a host of smiling faces, eagerly awaiting the start of the celebration. Upon hearing the king, the guests gasped with surprise and wonder. Then they stood and bowed before him. "Greetings, my new friends," King Leonard called out in regal voice. "Greetings, your highness," they responded politely. Stepping to his seat, King Leonard lifted his punch-filled goblet high into the air. "I welcome you all to my palace. Let the celebration begin." To the animals' surprise, balloons suddenly dropped from the high ceiling and bright fireworks exploded. It was all quite delightful, and the crowd joined in, shouting and blowing noisemakers and tooters. Above the roar of the crowd, King Leonard addressed the royal band. "Let there be music!" The music and games began, and the ballroom was filled with happy sounds. Then Horatio spoke a word in the king's ear. The lion smiled and jumped up from his seat. "My dear guests," he said with a cub-like grin, "the royal ice cream is now ready to be served." At this, the crowd cheered. So it was that King Leonard's celebration began, and what a celebration it was. The king talked with his new friends, walked with them, shared in their games, and even let them look through his royal telescope. The animals had a splendid time as well. In fact, they so enjoyed the company of the king that they did not want to return to their own homes. In the end, King Leonard invited them all to stay and live with him in his palace. So the party was extended. Day after day, the king and his new friends played, sang, and ate ice cream. And day after day, King Leonard's celebration continued. You can read a story like this in the Bible. Jesus told it in Luke. When one of those at the table with him heard this, he said to Jesus, "Blessed is the man who will eat at the feast of the kingdom of God." Jesus replied, "A certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who had been invited, 'Come, for everything is now ready.' But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, 'I have just bought a field, and I must go and see it. Please excuse me.' Another said, 'I have just bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me.' Still another said, 'I just got married, so I can't come.' The servant came back and reported this to his master. Then the owner of the house became angry and ordered his servant, 'Go out quickly into the streets and alleys of the towns and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame.' 'Sir,' the servant said, 'what you have ordered has been done, but there's still room.' Then the master told his servant, 'Go out to the roads and country lanes and make them come in, so that my house will be full.' I tell you, not one of those men who were invited will get a taste of my banquet." So this is your grandmama telling you this beautiful story. I love you so much. Big as the sky and up to the moon. Have a wonderful day.